You're listening to the Survivor Sweat Podcast with Mike Buchmiller and Russell Rosenblum. If you're looking for strategy articles and just about everything Survivor, head to survivorsweat.com. Now, let's get to it.
All right, welcome back to the Survivor Sweat Pod. We are in the Simply Vegas studio heading into week 11.
With the Simply Vegas water.
With the Simply Vegas water.
It's like a desert out here.
I am sad to report that JED is dead. That said, we still have a chip in a chair, and we are down to one live entry.
Well, how many did we have at the end of 22 when we won?
One.
Exactly. So we're live.
So we're ahead of pace.
We're ahead of pace.
Yeah. Well, who the heck are we? Well, my name is Mike Buchmiller. This is Russell Rosenblum. We were the 2022-23 Circa Survivor Champion under the JED name. And as I'd mentioned before, JED is dead, but we're not dead. And
that's why you should have more than one entry.
This is true. This is true.
Or go buy one at Survivor Sweat.
Yes.
Or go sell one at Survivor Sweat.
Well, let's recap week 10.
Let's not. I wasn't very happy with it.
Well, 46 hit the skids, and we were two of the 46.
We were.
We are down to 105 entries of the original 14,266.
Are we close yet?
We're still not close.
Not close.
That said, 99.26% of the entire pool has been eliminated through week 10. All picks were entered. We're done with that. Last year, after 10 weeks, it was 6.6 remained. This year, 0.74% of the pool is alive with a dream of taking home that first place prize of $14,266,000. Absolutely incredible.
Pretty strong.
So here we are, sub 1%, and you don't think we're close?
I don't think we're close.
Yeah, shit.
I mean, we're closer.
We are closer.
Actually, we're technically further away than we were last week.
Technically.
Yep.
Well, looking back for week 10 selections, what's your thoughts on that?
Whoops.
I
mean, it's as I said to one of the people in our group, he asked me a few hours before who he thought we were going to take. And I said, we're not 100% sure yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have two on the Giants, maybe one on the Bears. He's like, I'm sorry, what? And I said, and, he always says, don't ever let me influence you. I don't know what I'm doing. And, I explained it to him, explained the path and everything. And he's like, okay, well, I trust you. And then as I hung up and I called Mike, I go, can't do this, because it wasn't even what it's just the words left my lips of like, oh my God.
You said just saying it out loud.
Just saying it out loud and hearing the words leave my lips. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to put. And so this is a rarity where we took three entries and we just took three different spots. And
we bounced back and forth for sure. We discussed two Giants, one Bears. We discussed one Giant, two Bears. No, we did not.
Couldn't take two Bears. We were locked
We
out.
discussed one Eagle, one Giants, one Bears. Man, and
we discussed three Giants briefly, but we did discuss it.
Briefly discussed three Giants.
See, this is the thing. Like I said at the beginning there are 12 teams that you're never going to take, even if you make it to the end. I had always assumed both the Giants and the Bears would be on that list, and somehow we're taking both of them in the same week. It's rough because you can say that, and there are 12 teams I'm sure you can carve out and say I hope to never take, but it doesn't mean the matchups and on the week those matchups happen are going to work with that.
Yeah. No, exactly. My son walks down. It's 6:30 a.m. The Giants are on, and he sees me just kind of. I got the game on, of course. Just torturing myself.
Right,
Can't sleep through it. And
maximum pain.
And he looks at me and he goes, "We got the Giants?" And I go, "Dude, come on." I go, "You said this 2 weeks ago when we had the Jaguars."
And
I go,
fair point.
I go,
actually.
And he looked at me, and I said, listen. We have to take some of these teams. It's the only way you're going to get through. I really like the matchup here. I thought the Giants had opportunities. I liked it a lot better than the Bears matchup. I'll tell you that. What I didn't like is when 29 others landed on the Giants.
Yeah, that really sucked.
So
because that kind of undermined the whole point of taking them.
we know that the Chargers are going to be the chalk. They climbed all the way up to 41%. And you look down and 30 have the Giants. And I'm like, oh.
So we're watching games on Sunday afternoon after, this is already over. And someone says to us, why don't you just take the 49ers? I'm like, you think we have the 49ers available to take care? No, like, if you wouldn't have even gotten through. It's like everyone just is, they're crazy. One guy, it was the guy that you were sitting next to, and I forget his name, and he said, I actually would have just taken Carolina. Did you not have Carolina available? Of course I had Carolina available. Who the hell doesn't have Carolina available?
Nick, did we have Carolina available?
You'd have to check. Go check the boards.
Who did.
Is there somebody that,
or anybody who didn't
doesn't have Carolina available?
That would be insane.
Absolutely incredible.
I'm going to go take an underdog. Now, grant you, there would be a lot of people talking about it if we popped out there and somebody took the Panthers. It'd be the misclick.
No, I love the armchair quarterbacks after the fact.
So ridiculous.
Well, why would you take them? Couldn't you have taken that team and this team and that team?
It was about 2 hours after the game ended, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, give or take.
So you just kind of wear it and you're just like, no, I get it. It's just one of those things. But yeah, so they win the leveling war here. The Giants, outlast the Vikings, who shows up at 20% and 18%. Well, the Giants had 20%, Vikings had 18%, and then the Bears settled in at 10%. I was hoping a little bit more would be on the Bears, but it is what it is. And so the Giants lose.
They lost.
And when you lose your entry, I mean, it's like losing a child, for crying out loud. I mean, that's not necessarily, literally, but like it just.
You mean the child that came in and asked why you took the Giants?
Yeah,
that child?
Exactly. I want to lose that one.
Exactly.
And then you find out, 29 others are on them. You're like, okay, we can do this. Okay. So, but the Bears one was the one that killed us. I mean,
they were just bad.
They were just bad. They were never even in the football game, for crying out loud.
Would you rather we saved them for Christmas?
No. I guess we can. Well, no, I don't think we can take them.
We cannot take them
on that
for
interim.
Christmas.
We've taken. We're done with the Bears.
Thank God.
I'll tell you that right now. Jeez, Louise. So not the best week, going from 3 entries down to a 1, but we did clip a combined total of 46 entries, and here we are sitting at 105 entries, and man, we have a chip in a chair.
It's a tough contest.
It is a tough contest. I'll tell you what, this makes it so great.
But that's barely what's amazing. What's amazing is your boys that have 6 left.
Yeah, that's crazy. Nick, how did last year's Circa Survivor Champions do?
Jags. With his 3 entries, he got 2. He got through with the 2 Chargers, and he lost 1 in Germany on the Giants.
Oh yeah, so a little Giants action.
Yep.
All right. What about Alex Brown?
Alex Brown.
From 2 years ago, chopped with us.
Yeah, he was you guys' co-champion. He got through with 1 on the Vikings versus Jacksonville.
Tell me that wasn't a tease.
No kidding.
Gosh. I mean, the whole time you're thinking, is this really going to happen?
Right. Because as we said, even as bad as our week was losing 2 entries, if the Vikings lose or the Chargers lose, we're actually still in great shape.
Oh, geez. If the Vikings and Chargers lose, you're down in the teens.
Correct.
It's incredible. And sure enough, NFL Wise Guys, I've touched base with them on the X handle. Man, they got 6 left. Who do they got?
They got through with 4 on the Vikings versus Jacksonville and 2 on the Baltimore Ravens on that Thursday night game. What a run.
Oh, yeah, the 2-point conversion.
What a run.
Because actually, I'd forgotten about that. We actually talked about at one point taking 1 Ravens, but it would have been it would never have been Ravens and Philly. Philly's what got us through. Yeah. It would have been Ravens with Giants or Ravens with Bears or Ravens, Giants, Bears. So either way, would have gotten 1 through. But can you imagine we had Ravens, Giants, Bears, and you're looking at this 2-point conversion. Otherwise, you lose all 3.
Yeah. No, unbelievable. I mean, I wanted... we discussed the Ravens, and, just breaking down that game, I just knew Joe Burrow was just going to get after him.
You hated it and put our money where your mouth is when you went out there and bet the Bengals anyway.
Yeah, bet the Bengals. I love that game. And it looked pretty good until midway through the 3rd quarter when Chase Brown fumbled the football. And
and then everything fell apart.
Everything fell apart. And even then, they still had opportunities.
They did, but there's something about giving a very good team an opportunity that's a problem.
Yeah.
You can't let them hang around.
Just unbelievable. And, I think they should go for 2 there. I know analytics back and forth. It's like 52%. They shouldn't. Those type of things.
I think they're right to go for 2. You kick it away, and you're also now in a spot where, you get the extra point and kick it away. You're still giving Lamar, 30 seconds, whatever. It's not a ton of time, but they're totally free rolling you now. Free roll. There are worst cases they go to overtime.
Yeah, no, I think I go for 2 there.
And you don't want to be hypocritical. We said the same thing the week prior regarding Kansas City.
No, absolutely.
Where, who was it playing Kansas City that chose not to go for 2 at the end when they scored? I'm blanking the week before. And they should have gone for 2. Oh, it was Tampa,
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Because Mayfield, as soon as they get the extra point, they go to overtime. And by the way, Kansas City just didn't move the ball on 3 downs with the last few seconds left in the game as well. They also had the free roll. But yeah, in overtime, when Kansas City wins the toss and Mayfield's like, ugh, like we just lost.
Oh, just
like he knows they're done. Like it's over.
Just immediately.
If that's what you think, then how do you not just go for 2?
Yeah, I go for 2 there. There were some questionable calls, 2 possible holding calls. There was face masks all over the field. It is what it is. I mean, I kind of like...
You can't blame questionable calls for taking out our Bears pick, though. What you can blame is one questionable call, us taking the Bears.
No, that was very questionable.
That was a question.
Very questionable. Very questionable. One other guy I've been tracking too, Derbify. Who did Derbify take? Old Tony Gordon.
Derbify, well, first of all, shout outs to Derbify. He's your previous Circa Millions winner, and he likes everything that we post on Survivor Sweat, so thanks for the engagement.
He won the easy contest.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're competing in that. It's also just impossible. I mean, you sit there. I ran the last quarter in a 5-week quarter. I ran 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 3-2, 4-1. It was good for like 30th place for the quarter.
Oh my god!
It's like what? You're 2 games out. It's 2 games is like an eternity here. It's impossible. Tough.
We also have another entry there. We have 32.5 wins. We go 4-1 last week, and it's like, you're not catching up.
Yeah, good for you. You pass like 3 guys. You're in like 80th. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're still 3.5, 4 behind. I think 36 is the
36 or 36.5.
Yeah. So you're like, 4-1. This is great. You look down the list. You're like, what happened?
Exactly. You just got to keep inching up because you pass some guys, but then some other guys pass you. Anyway, back to Derbify. Who do you have?
Yeah, Derbify just took a chalk. Chargers.
Yeah,
made it through.
Well, congratulations. I mean, who's going to be the first-time Circa Millions winner and Circa Survivor winner? Man, that's double dip there. That's pretty good.
That's a good question.
Very, very impressive. I hope it's us. I hope we're the 2-time Survivor winner.
Yeah, I'll take 2 times. Yes, of course, I'd love them all, but if you give me the choice, I'll take 2-time Survivor. It's not the it's the money. That's what it's the money.
It's the money. Yeah, it is the money. Yes, great stuff. Either way, both contests, exciting to play, very difficult to win. 105 left. We're not close. I mean, we got to get down sub 30, sub 15, sub 10. I mean, you're telling me these guys are going to roll in with 6 entries? They're not chopping. Come on.
Well, they may sell a piece on Survivor Swap, but maybe we'll circle back to that.
We will circle back to that. Well, that's the recap of Week 10. We are going to look ahead to Week 11 when we get back from the break.
Missing out on the biggest sports contest of the year just because you're not in Las Vegas? Now there's a solution with Survivor Sweat. Play from anywhere in the Circa Millions, Circa Survivor, or any of the biggest sports contests with America's first secondary marketplace to buy and sell contest entries. Buy an entry in the marketplace and then submit your picks each week into the contest using our preferred proxy partners. Make a deep run in a winner-take-all contest? Sell any piece of your Survivor entry in the Survivor Sweat secondary marketplace. Set your price, stake, and pick control status, and buyers can join the action from anywhere. Buyers can even resell their stake if the entry increases in value. Think of it as an eBay for sports contests. Now's your chance to win over $16 million. To learn more, visit survivorsweat.com and get started today.
All right, we are back. Right. Let's look ahead to Week 11. What do we got, Russ?
What do we got on Week 11? We have, this will be an interesting week, although in fairness, I think I say that every week. When you look at the popularity here coming down from the top, theoretically in non-Circa pools, it looks like Detroit will be incredibly popular.
Yeah.
I suspect some people may hold Detroit back for Christmas. So for Thanksgiving, excuse me. So I don't know. I think some people will still take them because you're getting close enough to Thanksgiving that if there's another game you like on Thanksgiving, you can go ahead and burn Detroit here. But they still, they might be second or third on the list. Then you're looking at Miami, which is roughly 30% in non-Circa pools, which it's probably going to be higher because people that aren't taking Detroit are going to take Miami, right? Then you look down at Green Bay, Now, Chicago's pretty bad. So how many have Green Bay left? Anybody have that?
73.3%.
So I think Green Bay could be pretty. Green Bay, I think, will pop up pretty good too. I think Green Bay's a good spot here. And then Houston, depending again, if you're trying to save Houston for a 45% game on Christmas against Baltimore, you won't use them. Otherwise, you might use them here.
The interesting thing on the Texans there is that only 18% of the pool have them available.
Yep, that is true.
Whereas 98% have the Dolphins. So if you're going to avoid the Lions, which is Lions are 13-point favorites versus the Jags. Clear cut. They are the only team this week with an 80+% win rate, 87%.
I'm surprised it's only 80.
Right. It's almost like push the button in advance. But if you do that, you have now tipped your hand and you are going with the Chiefs on Thanksgiving.
Presumably. Unless you have the Cowboys available, you want them? Or is it they play the Giants, right? So there's another winter game. I'm surprised. The Cowboys, Giants right now, the way those teams look, they should flex that game to Germany or London. Because those are the games they generally send over there.
Don't do it because we usually take one of those games. Like, it's unbelievable.
Just a complete dog game.
Just unbelievable.
You've been flexed to Germany.
Real quick about the Jags. That's the highest, negative 13. That's the highest we've seen anything all season, isn't it?
I think so, minus 13. And yet the look ahead, I remember, I think it was week 14, where Philly was initially going to be 90% versus Carolina. So presumably that line's going to be even bigger.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great.
Although it's close. This line's 87. This is 87%, so it's pretty close.
So this week, there are 6+ teams that are 70% or higher. As you mentioned, the Packers. Yep. You can also throw in the Vikings and the 49ers in there, too.
You can, although a lot of them are burned. I don't remember a lot still owning the 49ers, weren't they?
25.7%.
They were one of the key games to get through that choke point week in the past where we lost a bunch of people in 1 week.
Yep, 25% have the Niners. 61% have the Vikings. The Vikings are in back-to-back road games here. So, the list is Lions, Dolphins, Texans, 49ers,
They're
Vikings.
on back-to-back road games. They're a good team, and they're playing a not-so-good team, so it's still not a terrible spot.
If you really want to, tippy-toe out there, you got the Rams -5 at the Patriots. Patriots actually look like their game. They're playing for their coach.
So you're suggesting they take the Patriots?
No, I'm not suggesting that. Definitely not suggesting that.
I guess if you don't have, the Bears or the Giants available, the Patriots are fine.
And there's only two other teams in the 60%. That's the Jets -4. Is anybody taking the Jets anymore? We know only 7% can take them, but Jets -4 versus the Colts.
Depending on what the rest of your path looks like, it's not a terrible spot. It's because there aren't too many other times you're going to want to take them. So,
and I'm not sure if anybody's touching this Eagles-Commanders game on Thursday night.
I don't know. For a while, we had somebody that was taking every Thursday game, right? But they didn't take last Thursday, I think.
They're out of the pool.
Oh, yeah, that's why. That's probably why they should.
One too many Thursdays.
They probably won't jump on this Thursday's game either then. Probably not. Unless they go to Survivor Sweat.
Yeah.
Maybe they're only buying an entry that has Thursdays left.
As I've said before, sometimes you fly too close to the sun.
Oh, yeah.
You'll get burned, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so, do you push the buttons? You take the Lions here. You know that you're going to be on the Chiefs, another chalk there. You're just going to take it. But then you got to anticipate Christmas. If you think this is going to, some might think it won't even get this far. Like, who knows? I'm listening to Derek Stevens last night on VSiN, and he's like, I'm starting to believe this isn't going to get there.
Oh, what does he know?
Yeah, what does he know?
No, seriously, actually, I think it gets to Christmas. Again, it almost doesn't matter the field size to some degree. If you get a few major upsets on Thanksgiving and or Christmas, there's a chance it doesn't make it there. But Christmas is so close to the end, there's only 2 games left after that. And the thing about Christmas this year, which is pretty uncommon, is that you've got 3 basically close, well, not anymore 50-50, but they're 3 very, very close games. And so what I think will happen this year on Christmas, if there are still a decent number of entries left, is it'll be the first time where you see more than one person on each underdog. Yeah. Meaning that it can't end on that day. Is my guess, right? Yeah. Whereas Thanksgiving, I don't know, who's jumping on, some of these dogs? Who's jumping on, Chicago and Detroit or something? Who's taking Chicago there, right?
Nobody's taking Chicago.
A lot of people probably held Dallas at the beginning of the year. Now, maybe someone jumps on the Giants, maybe?
There's Dallas at 58%. So if somebody did take the Giants,
right, maybe.
Then maybe. But
these aren't spots people are looking ahead and going, okay, fine. I can see somebody looking ahead saying, okay, we did beginning of the year. Say we think Seattle actually might be good this year and should improve as the year goes on. And they were initially like 42%. And it's like, okay, well, maybe Chicago isn't very good. Maybe we'll take Seattle on Christmas. Now, we never wanted that to be our only entry, and I don't even know if we have it left on the path we're on. But I could see someone plausibly saying that. I could see somebody plausibly saying, I'll take the Texans at home versus Baltimore. Yeah. Right? I just don't see people jumping on the Bears versus Detroit as good as Detroit looks in Detroit. I mean, it's like you may as well just put in the no pick. It's just save time.
No. I mean, looking at Christmas right now, Bears, Seahawks, 50-50. Chiefs are your highest win rate at 55% at Pittsburgh. Definitely not warm and fuzzy the way Pittsburgh's been playing.
Pittsburgh's been playing great. I've liked him for a few weeks. And as you said a couple of weeks ago, when you make it there, it's unclear at this point, but it's still possible the Chiefs have locked everything up, including home field advantage. Pittsburgh could be playing for their division. Yeah. With the Ravens in there. It's definitely possible. The thing that'll be the variable there, too, though, is that you'll have to see if Kansas City is playing for an undefeated season, because if they are, I don't think they pack it in. No. With Reed having a couple championships, I think they'll go for it. So you would need Kansas City to have lost at least one game prior, but you'd also need Pittsburgh to lose probably two more, because Pittsburgh right now is the team that Kansas City would be competing for home field with. Yeah. So they might still need the game. If it's only a 1-game delta, it'll be too close. So It'll be interesting to see, but it is possible Kansas City rests a bunch of guys in that game.
And the third game there is now the Texans have now flipped their 51%.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
Over the Ravens.
But either way, but there's a game I could easily see somebody on either side of, because somebody might have just been saving them for Christmas, and then it just is what it is. Yeah. You just don't have another path.
Yeah. So, if you just push the button with the Lions this week, you're taking the Chiefs. You got to figure out, obviously, Christmas.
Look, if you still have Minnesota available, and we do not, I think that's probably a spot I would really seriously look at, because the ones that tend to rank higher theoretically are Houston and Detroit, but they have some significant value going forward. So Minnesota's a great spot. If you definitely don't want to use Houston on Christmas, then it's a reasonable spot to take. And the Rams are also reasonable.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins might jump up to 40+%.
Oh, the Dolphins are going to break 40. I'm almost certain.
They may get to 50. This is crazy. I mean, 98% have them. If you want to avoid Detroit here, that's your team that people are going to take.
You are right, and I do think Miami could definitely spike, but I don't want to lose sight, and there's some other spots the following week, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that if you don't take Miami this week, they play New England next week at home in Miami. Sure. So they're going to be coming off, it'll be back-to-back home games against New England at home. So if you don't take them this week, you can take them next week, and that's also very reasonable if you're trying to avoid the chalk this week.
Looking way ahead, the early Week 12 look, there's kind of a choke point. Hey, Nick, can you tell me some teams that people might take in Week 12?
If they're still in, right?
If they're still in. Hopefully we're taking a team.
Hopefully we're taking one of these teams in Week 12.
We're going to start with the franchise that we start with every week when we look ahead. So if you guys want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs more than we already do, they have an 86% win rate over the Panthers.
Well, they win every game in a blowout, right?
Yeah.
Then you got, who's below them? Give me a couple teams.
Commanders, 80% win rate over the Cowboys, and 62% of the pool can still take the Commanders. Divisional, I guess, if you like that.
Cowboys are bad.
The Cowboys are really bad. Then next we got the...
I wouldn't rush out to take them.
We got the Texans, 77% win rate over the Tennessee Titans.
Right, so same thing. If you choose not to take them this week, they're available next week, again, if you're not holding them for Christmas.
Yeah, 100%. And 18% of the pool can take the Texans, so that's obviously not a lot, but...
Yeah, no, exactly. So if you're taking Detroit this week, you can't take the Chiefs next week because you won't have anything for Christmas.
Sure you can. Well, maybe you got the Bears available.
Maybe you got the Bears.
Or you can, look, I would not recommend doing this. I'm not actually being sarcastic this time. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if you really, really, really don't believe this contest makes it to Christmas, you can roll dice and you can go ahead and take some of these really, teams that you think have great spots. I would recommend, even if you do that, you hold something, even if it is literally like the Bears or, one of the other, like there are no other big dogs, but there are no big dogs, but you hold a dog just in case. But yeah, you could go out there and take some favorites, but you really are rolling dice.
I would recommend holding some money at Circa so that you're hedging in week 16 and 17.
Well, you're right. And actually,
when you have no you have no credible teams.
Win your game.
Yeah.
This actually came up in 22 that we went from 14 to 4 and almost won. Yeah, literally over Christmas and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And so you ended up in a spot where people that didn't already have money at Circa couldn't get it there. Banks are closed. It's Christmas, right? So you can't even get money to Circa to hedge. Mm-hmm. So if you even think that's something you might want to do, you want to get some money there in advance.
Absolutely. Good point. I'm glad I brought it up as well, is that you have to be prepared, because when you get around these holidays, banks close, and you have to have money in there. That way you can,
Right. I doubt you get from 100 to, and to be clear, when I say they made it from like 14 to 4, also keep in mind, there were 4 that were still playing that weekend. It wasn't like it could have been 1 and it almost was 1.
Yeah.
So having that opportunity to hedge, you got to make sure you have cash there. It doesn't matter what theories you have and what you say you might have done.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well,
as Russ mentioned, the Dolphins 73% win rate over the Patriots. So I guess that could.
Yeah, it's not hugely different than what this week is, and we'll see. But they're slightly bigger favorites against Vegas. They're both games are at home. You're right. New England's a division game. On the other hand, that'll be back-to-back home games. Tua got a little banged up last week. I actually thought they were going to send him in for concussion protocol. I guess they didn't. He was looking a little wobbly. So you've got one more week you can look at this 2 ways with Tua. You got one more week for him to get healthy, or one more week for him to get knocked out. Don't know which way that'll go. He still likes to lead with his head on blocks. It's not really the
I don't get
smartest decision there. No.
I know sometimes it's just instinctual, but man, you just got to get yourself out of the way.
Correct.
You just have to be healthy. That team cannot compete moving forward without him.
No, I mean, they've demonstrated that when they have 2 wins going into last night's game, 2-3 wins. I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, the most common entry: Seattle, Houston, Jets, 49ers, Bears, Eagles, Rams, Broncos, Bengals, Chargers. Say that 10 times fast. There are several sub 50% availability on several teams. And Nick, what do we got sub 50?
Sub 50, we're starting off with the Jets.
Thank God.
The Jets still look like the Jets, huh? Rodgers ignored. Yeah. But
what's the record's the same as it was last year at this time or something like that?
I think so. Yeah. Next up, we got the Chargers at 14%. After that, Houston 18%. Like I said earlier, Eagles, we were talking about this before the pod, Mike. Eagles at 23%. 49ers 25%. Broncos 35.2%. Seattle 36%. Ravens 50%. So,
yeah,
I guess that's not under the 50%.
No,
I added the Ravens.
Even though it was 51, it'd be fine.
It's close enough, and there's several that are just right above, just a tick above that. So, for all those out there, why are you taking these teams? I mean, people are running out of teams to take. It just.
Well, you got to remember, and we discuss this every year, and it's obvious and everybody knows it, but it's hard to implement. It doesn't really matter, assuming you believe this makes it to week 20 or makes it to at least week 12, right? It doesn't matter if you get knocked out in week 4 or week 11. You're done. So whether you choose, if you think at some point you're going to have to use the Giants and then you use the Giants in week 3 and they lose, or you use the Giants in week 10 and they lose, either way you're out. So sometimes you'll have we try to save some better teams for later, but the reality is that in the NFL, you don't even know those teams that you think will be better later are actually better later. Yeah. You take Miami, right? We burned them on some entries, not others. But if 2 is out, there's almost nobody you're looking to take Miami against. Nobody.
Correct.
I think Dallas is overrated even with Dak, but presumably with Dak out, you're less likely to take them. You can take the 49ers if something happens to Purdy. You're not likely to take them. I know I could say quarterbacks, but it's not all quarterbacks. You could look at the Ravens. Lamar goes out. You're like, I should have used them last week. Yeah. Whatever last week was, they were probably favored. I should have used them.
Sure.
Some exceptions are teams like Pittsburgh, right? Because I think Russell Wilson has made an improvement to Pittsburgh for sure. I don't want to understate it. And they would certainly lose a step if he's not playing, but they're still incredibly competitive. I mean, I don't know if the difference is a point and a half if Wilson doesn't play. It's not 6 points.
Yeah.
Lamar doesn't play, it's probably 6 points. If Tua doesn't play, it's probably 8 points.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Looking over on the X handle, I saw a tweet or a post by Survivor Atlas, and it showed that these 8 entries all have a twin. So there's 8 of them that have the exact same twin out there, and so
interesting. Yeah.
What are the same paths? Well, the odds are that the NFL wise guys have 3 of those.
Right. So then the odds are pretty high.
So how many total entries they got?
6.
So every one of their entries has a twin. So I'd like to, I kind of want to know what their plans are.
Right. At some point you'll break it up. I don't know when their plan is. I'd imagine they have one.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking
Usually, by the way, it's going to be a Thanksgiving. I would imagine it's a Thanksgiving or Christmas split. We remember a couple of years ago we had somebody that had, it was only 6 entry max, and he had 6 entries going into, I think it was 11, if I remember right. It was 11 or 12, and because it was either one or maybe it might have been 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, but I'm not sure. And he laid the wood on Buffalo at home versus the Jets. This is pre-Aaron Rodgers, not that matters.
Yes.
And when asked, and the Jets have the big upset, he said his entire plan was to make it to Thanksgiving and then split his picks, I think, on both sides of the same game. So
I think he went on Vincent and discussed that.
He did,
for sure. Speaking of NFL wise guys, head over to Survivor Sweat. They got some of their picks posted up there. As a matter of fact, they're packaging all 6 of them together.
Yep, I like that as a concept.
For $50K.
Not for the whole thing.
You get 5%.
Yes, definitely not for the whole thing.
Ownership for each entry. So, nice little sweat if you want to be involved. If you're one of the people out there that are like, man, it'd be great to have 6 entries. Well, there you have it.
You can have a piece of 6 with, and if you're not currently in, you could make a pretty strong argument that you have a piece of 6 entries from people that pick better than you did.
Yep.
I mean, with the run that NFL Wise Guys is having, that's a super fair assessment of things.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why, Nick and Mike, they got together and they set that price. They figured out this. Inside joke if it's your first pod.
Yeah, so before jumping on the pod, there were 26 entries over at the marketplace, ranging between $1K for 1% up to...
It's amazing. It's like 25% of the field now is up there in Survivor Sweat.
Up to $75K for 50% of an entry. The intrinsic value for an entry is $135,866, and the last sale was $888 for 1%. So if you want to get in and you want a little sweat, jump on over to Survivor Sweat and take a look at some of the entries. Or if you want a big bite of the apple there, then you jump on the NFL Wise Guys.
Hey, you can always make a counter offer to the Wise Guys and try to buy 40%.
There you go. They're also facilitating swaps. A lot of people are swapping back and forth, just giving their, maximizing their opportunity to advance and stay in this. I mean, once you're in it past 10 weeks now, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, you just like to think of not being in it at this point is like,
oh, it's devastating. It's like I said, for those of you that play poker, if you play in the World Series of Poker or main event and sure, everybody wants to win, everybody wants the glory, everybody wants the money, but when you bust out the fact that you cannot play anymore, very few people stick around and stay in the room. They just get the hell out of there. It's the most devastating feeling.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than standing behind the chair waiting for that ticket.
Well, there is. There's losing your last Survivor entry and then having to come out here and do a podcast a couple days later about Survivor. That kind of sucks.
We did that last year. Just absolutely devastating. Nick, what was the question that was asked of us this week?
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about too. We always tell you guys to hit us up with questions, and we've never really said that you can just put a YouTube comment below our podcast and ask a question that way. So Raider41.
You mean for the people that don't know how to use YouTube?
Well,
is that
sure?
Yeah. The big button that says comment.
Yeah.
They don't know they don't know you actually read them.
Just scroll down just to take.
Exactly.
Raider41, maybe he's a Las Vegas local like us three. I don't know. He says, "Hey guys, hoping to tail you after the Circa selections post. What's the best way to find your choices?" So thank you for the question, Raider41.
Should we finally get an X handle?
Well, we have our own personal.
That's true. But don't look there.
The best way to tail us is each week on Survivor Sweat, X handle.
Yep.
At 4:00, we post our pick. We also kind of give some insight as to where we think people are going to land. We haven't been so on top of that this year.
It's been tough. Nobody has been.
Lately, I'm just like, who's going to win the leveling war? Who knows?
Right.
But we post our pick there at 4:00 once everything locks up.
And actually, not to lose sight of it, because sometimes Circa's a little slow to post some of the stuff, but on the Survivor Sweat handle, Nick goes out there and he posts the selections for everybody, not just ours, when they're up. And I think he gets them posted. You can listen to the show on VSiN, but you're listening to quite a bit before you get there. Nick gets it posted, I believe, before Circa does, because he's listening, gets it up there. And then also on Sunday, as the games are going, he kind of live updates how many picks are left.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, not that you can't do the subtraction yourself, but sometimes you're drinking a little bit when the Bears bust, so you need a little help.
Yeah, that's a safe assessment of things. Yeah, I try to get it up as fast as I can, like just listening to Vissen, and I do the little red and green graphic. Obviously not dogging on Circa here, but I do it live, especially on Sunday. So that's like one of the ways that you can see.
Yeah, live on Wednesday is not that helpful anyway. Do it Sunday.
There you go.
Very good, very good. Well, that wraps it up for Week 11 preview, and man, it'll be interesting to see where the percentages are with Miami.
If you have them this week, and we do not, so it is what it is. So I'm not being hypocritical. I probably take Minnesota because you can avoid the heavy chalk. You can save the Christmas teams. Although that said, with Houston and Minnesota being high, it's definitely possible that Houston and Detroit, Minnesota could pick up some of those Detroit picks too. But if you have them available, I think it's a good spot.
So the Titans don't scare you a bit, do they?
I mean, the Bears scare me if I take them.
Yeah, rough week. But you know what? We are in it to win it. So
we are.
Don't count us out.
Like you like to ask me every week, like, what's 8th place pay? Exactly. Got to win, all or nothing.
Yep. Until next time, get your picks in and survive. See you next time.
Later.
Looking for Survivor strategy articles? Did you lose your last entry on a Survivor contest and wish you could rebuy? Check out our marketplace and you may find what you need. Head over to survivorsweat.com for all things Survivor. And we'll see you next week for the next Survivor Sweat podcast.